All right, we're at the top of the hour. Thank you everybody for registering and joining for our quick webinar today on EFT. And my name is Tyson McMurrin, as I mentioned, and I am your host and presenter today. And the good news behind today's webinar is it's a fairly quick webinar from a showing you the actual EFT demo, but I did want to spend 2 or 3 minutes just talking about current trends that we're seeing within the workplace and within regards to payment processing. I want to talk just very quickly about the 4 C's, and if you want to learn more about the 4 C's, Mike Ham and I have a podcast where we talk about the 4 C's for SAP Business One. And then I'm going to jump into just how we can help you with payments as kind of, both incoming and outgoing payments. And then we'll get into the EFT demo and then we'll wrap it up. So when we talk about the current trends that we're seeing in the marketplace right now, the big trend right now is people kind of want to work from anywhere. And it started with kind of the beginning of the pandemic with, people having to work from home. And now people kind of want to work from anywhere. So the ability to connect into the system, interact with people, both within the organization and externally. Fortunately, Microsoft Teams has kind of helped with kind of the communication side of things. The problem with that communication is that it kind of gets trapped there, and then you still have this process of handling the information. So that leads us into, I have 2 polls today just for us to kind of see kind of what's going on within everybody else's space. So Mike, if you want to start the poll, we can just see how people are doing there. So just give it a minute for people to just answer. So we're seeing the office is leading the way, and there's still some people that are home, and 1/3 of the people are kind of hybrid right now. So 11%, 10% are saying from home, 40% office, 10% from anywhere, and 40% hybrid. Well, it's interesting that that number's that high for the people from the office and the hybrid, and I would imagine that the hybrid people feel like this slide here, where the occasional work from the office becomes this giant pile of stuff to process, and there's nothing in the outbox. Everything's in the inbox. So I really kind of hopefully can portray to you through our 4 C's podcast and through some of our other webinars that we can certainly help you with making it a lot easier to kind of work kind of from anywhere by collaborating and sharing information digitally. So let's get into the payment side of things and talk about the payment side of things. So what we see within the payment, outgoing payment side of the world is that it's certainly inefficient processes. So many of our customers are doing EFT direct from their bank, so they're going onto their online banking, and then they're going manually into SAP Business One, and they're reconciling what they actually paid, or they're doing a payment run, and then they're going and doing the EFT that way, and then the customer or your vendor is getting the payment, and they might not be applying the invoices the same way because they didn't get your email with what you paid, or you mailed out a reconciliation later, or you're not sending anything, letting them know what invoices you're actually paying. And this is leading to a bunch of manual emails, either proactively sending out this is what I paid you, or reactively when you have an outstanding invoice and you call the customer, you email the customer, and they say, well, we paid you that invoice, and just creates this reconciliation issue. And then if you're writing checks and having them signed off with people working, hybrid, the amount of time that it takes for those checks to get processed, printed, signed, and mailed out, studies have shown that's about $8 to get a check processed, printed, and mailed. And then with the delays in regards to signing and also printing out checks, because people kind of wanting to work from anywhere, it's leading to some issues around that. So Mike, maybe if you just want to take up the next poll while I bring up the next slide here. And the next poll is just kind of asking how you handle your payments. So are you doing check runs? Are you doing an EFT? Are you doing both or other? Okay, so about half the people in the audience are doing a check run. We'll just let it settle out here. There we go. So yeah, about half are doing check run, 25% are doing an EFT from the bank, 33% are doing both. One of the big things that we're seeing out there is the banks are getting super sensitive to check fraud. So safe pay or positive pay is something that they're wanting you to do. So when you do a check run, they're asking you that you load up a file to them of all the check numbers and the payee and the amount, so that they can reconcile that and clear the checks according to the payment. So if you're being asked to do this, we can help you with making this process, but hopefully after seeing the EFT process today, that you won't have to cut as many checks. So let's talk quickly about the 4 C's. I've mentioned it a few times. So for over 25 years, Third Way Business Systems has been working with you, the customer, to get the most out of your ERP system. We are the original SAP Business One Gold partner in North America. And our whole mandate right now is to help you grow and thrive in a digital world. So we know that that is not just being efficient within the SAP Business One core, because we want everything effectively mapped within the core, but we also know that there's other systems out there that you need to connect and automate to the core. And then we talked about the communication, eliminating those piles of paper. So being able to access, update, or process data or information from anywhere while staying in lockstep with the core, we can certainly help you with that. And then also that all parts of the business are in control. So this is what we call the 4 C's for SAP Business One, where if we can make sure that we have harmony around all of these, you're really going to kind of be able to quote unquote digitally transform your organization. But the 4 C's are really kind of around, we know that there's more to just the core SAP Business One in order to have efficient business processes. And if you're having any processes such as a check run that feels like there's got to be a better way to do it, reach out to us here at Third Wave, and we can certainly talk through those processes that you have and identify areas where maybe we can really help you streamline and or automate. So how can we do that around accounts payable? Streamline, automate, connect, communicate, and maintain control. Well, one of the big things we're seeing is around AP invoice approval. So before we're even, issuing the payment into SAP Business One, we're having processes where we're approving that invoice within Versago. So users that may not necessarily be an SAP Business One users need to approve certain expenses. So things like CapEx, things like a payroll run or anything like that, we can help you with automating the approval, where we can have a user log into Versago and process that information. So on the accounts payable side, we're seeing it around AP invoice approvals, employees being able to enter their expense reports. I know expense reports have been way down since the pandemic started, but If you're still processing expense reports via, an Excel spreadsheet being sent to you, there are better ways for us to get that information entered right into Business One for you through a portal. And we're also seeing a lot of our customers asking for a vendor portal. And this is becoming big around kind of the supply chain where you're sending a purchase order, but maybe you need to communicate around that purchase order, and doing it in an email is not open to everybody else in the organization seeing what's going on. And then obviously EFT, which is what we're going to be showing today. On the accounts receivable side, we've done a lot around automated document delivery. So, you do your invoice batch and being able to email those invoices out versus having to print them. Maybe you're doing dunning letters, and you need to be able to send statements and or dunning. So anything around automated document delivery, we can help you with that. And then we also have a lot of different payment processes, both e-check and credit card solutions. We have one that sits within SAP Business One where you can do a pre-auth and settle. We have Versago customer portal where a customer can go in and self-serve, so they can download invoices, they can view their invoices, they can place orders, they can process a payment via the Versago payments feature. And we also just did a webinar recently on PayFabric, which is a new offering that we have, which is click to pay. So right when I create an invoice, I can have that email, and within that email there's a link for the customer to either do an e-check or a credit card payment, and view their invoice. And then also EFT, we can within the accounts receivable function pull money from your customers' accounts. So if you're doing anything where you're doing like recurring pulling, or if you want, you can also just have it where you set up the relationship where you pull the outstanding amount that are due when you run the payment wizard. Anything that's at that due date, you can pull the money from your customers. So so that is something that some of our customers do. Most customers of our customers generally don't want you to be able to do that, but there are certain industries where that is acceptable, and we're seeing like 210 payment terms where the customer says, well, I want to maximize my 210 terms, and we'd be like, okay, well, we can set up EFT and we can just pull the money from your account, and we'll make sure that you always get your 2% discount. So that kind of leads us right into the EFT demo. I'm going to focus on the accounts payable side of it. And what EFT allows you to do is maximize cash flow by, kind of that incoming and outgoing, increasing your business partner relationships. So being able to eliminate those points of friction where we're trying to reconcile outstanding documents because there was entry miscommunication around what to apply payments against, those types of things. You're also going to have a more streamlined process where those payments are going to get out a lot faster to the vendor, and also in a streamlined fashion. And we're going to be communicating with our vendors, how we're paying, what invoices we paid. A lot better control and easier reconciliation around doing an EFT transfer, because from a bank rec perspective, it's a lot easier to reconcile those payments against your bank statement. You're going to reduce your payment processing costs because, as I mentioned earlier, $8 a check to get a check out the door, and over half the people were doing check runs. So just that in itself is really going to kind of help us, streamline the processing costs. Increased security. You heard me talking about the banks. They're getting nervous about checks. They're seeing a lot of uptick in check fraud. So things like positive pay are things that the bank's making you do, which is, again, going to increase your processing costs if you are doing check runs. And then ultimately, if you are doing the inbound EFT where you're pulling from your customer, you're going to reduce your days outstanding because you're not waiting for checks. And also from your vendor perspective, you're going to be, that preferred customer to them because you're going to make sure that you're paying within your payment terms. So what is it that EFT does? Well, basically we automate the AR and AP payments, and we leverage the payment wizard within SAP Business One. So the nice thing about this is from an implementation standpoint, it's really around just getting the NACHA format from your bank and working with you on the remittance details of what it is that you're doing, and then getting the customers set up with the EFT information, customers and or vendors set up with the EFT information, and you're ready to go. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in and do a demo of the product, which is the quickest part of today. So within here, I have an AP invoice open right now that I just added. And I made the GL date and the due date today, just so that I'm going to do a payment wizard and I'll show you that. So if we go in and look at this vendor, and if we go into the payment terms tab here, you can see that we've added some EFT information here. So this is where we can capture their routing and their account information, and we can also set up activation dates and expiry dates. So we can set up when certain accounts may expire. So once we have that set up, the other thing that we do is I've set up a payment term of outgoing bank transfer here for my payment method. So just when I run my payment wizard, I'm going to grab that outgoing BT to pay this invoice. So this invoice we're just going to leave open because I'll show you what the payments look like after the fact. So if we go in and do our banking process, we're going to pick up the payment wizard, and this is going to be not much different than a typical check run that you're used to doing. You're going to start your payment run. We're going to go in, and this time I'm going to do bank transfer here. Can you do a check and a bank transfer at the same time? Yes, it will sort it out. We don't recommend it though, because from a reconciliation standpoint, this payment run name here, we can reconcile against that payment run name so that when we look at the EFT that gets pulled from the bank, we can actually see and reconcile against that payment. So in here, as you know, you could select all. I'm just going to choose that one vendor just so that we don't have a whole bunch of invoices here. And oops, I forgot to select my dates back here. So let's just go. Oh no, that's coming up. So we'll just add this vendor to the list here. And our dates, as I mentioned, I'm just going to look at today. For those of you that don't know, if you put T in any of the date fields in SAP Business One, it will bring back today's date. And if you're in Business One and if you just wanted to do the 10th of the month, for example, you can do 10 and it knows that you're within that month. So just a quick Business One tip for anybody that's dealing with dates. I'm going to go next here. So you can see here, it's looking at my outgoing bank transfer. So this is, as I mentioned, if you had checks, it would break out these two payment methods into the two areas. I got enough money for this payment run, so I'm going to continue through. And here you can see that we have a button that shows me the non-included transactions. So maybe we have a vendor that is set up for a bank transfer, but we don't have the EFT information. We will show you that in the non-included transactions button there. So if you click it, it's going to bring up a little report and show you any of the transactions that the third wave EFT add-on, are ignoring from the payment run. So you can see I have two invoices that I'm paying. the one that I showed you and another one that I created earlier today. So I'm just going to say next. So, this is your typical check run process. So you could have separation of duty here as well. So if you're not allowed to execute it, only save the recommendations, we could have that separation of duty there as well. So the payment wizard's finished. So this is where typically you would print your checks. Over here you can see that I have a generate EFT file and generate remittance. So I'm going to generate the file first. So this will take a second for our EFT product to go out. It's going to find the payment wizard name. It's going to fill it in here, and it's going to start passing through the payment records and separating out all the vendors and creating the actual file that we're going to load to the bank based off of the NACHA format that your bank wants. So you can see here that it said, we've created the file. Make sure you submit it to your bank. And we can map this file path to wherever you want. So we could have this file in a very secured folder that only you have access to as a treasury person. So in this folder, you can see here that this is the file that we just generated. So the header information up here is the information about us. The first two lines, and then the remaining lines here are the payment remittance. So if we had 400 payments here, there would be 400 blocks like this with all the information in regards to the the vendor's banking information and the amount that you're paying. So depending on your bank format, these may look a little different because of date formats or where they want certain pieces of the file located. Our experience is generally we've come across pretty much most of the NACHA formats that are out there. So one of the first things that if you're interested in doing EFT that I'm going to ask you is to ask your bank for a sample NACHA format so that we can map that out and make sure that that's something that we can handle. As I mentioned, we really haven't run across one that we haven't been able to handle. But from time to time, we might have to go in and spend an extra half an hour or an hour, generating and creating that format. So one part of it is getting that file, going to our bank, loading that file in that I just showed you. The other part is letting the vendors know that we paid them. So from there, I have this generate remittances. So it's grabbing the outgoing payments that I've just created. And I'm going to click OK here. And this is where I can choose how I want to deliver those documents. So I could set up contact preferences within each of our vendors. So some maybe we mail, some of them we email. I'm just going to deliver all of them via email here. And we can also set up rules in regards to how we want the remittance done. Do we want to automatically email it? Or do we want to put it into a draft in an Outlook where you can pick it up, review it, maybe add any wording that you want, and process it. So this is really where most of the implementation work for us is, and that is formatting the Crystal report to a layout that you want. So maybe you're going to want your logo there. But that's, the first part of the implementation. And then the second part is really around the email template here, and we can teach you how to do that. So from here, we can send this, remittance out to our vendor, letting them know that we paid it. I just sent it to draft here just so that we don't have it sending out to Michael and bugging him. But that essentially is how the EFT product works. So it really streamlines your payment processing, and if you're doing incoming, you can pull the money from your customer's bank as well. So next thing I just want to cover off is we have another webinar coming up next week. So Mike, if in the chat, if you want to drop in a link there, oh, you just did, thank you. We're going to have a webinar coming up next week talking about container management, which is really around updating these POs based off of what your vendor's actually putting in the containers, so that we can have visibility to the receiving dates. We can have visibility to splitting the lines out on a PO and updating the PO line dates, which is going to allow you to, continue to run your MRP wizard. You're going to get better visibility into your available to promise and really streamline your processes and automate some of the processes around container management. So we invite you to join us next week as we cover off container management. And we talked about the 4 C's. SAP identified us as the top innovation partner because we are working so closely with our customers to help them. So thank you, customers, for working so closely and trusting us to be, part of your growth journey and part of your business venture. So, if you need any help with any of the 4 C's, reach out to me, and we can talk about what it is that you want to do.